a minute.
Okay.
I'm here.
Hey, Scott.
Jurassic Park.
Okay, it's streaming live on YouTube now.
All set?
Yes.
Okay, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Cuyahoga County Public Safety and Justice Affairs Committee hearing of July 14th. Roll call, please.
Calling the roll, Mr. Gallagher,
Here.
Ms. Baker,
Here.
Mr. Tuma,
Here.
Mr. Brady. Absent at the moment, Ms. Conwell.
Present.
There's a quorum. Also like the record to reflect that council members Miller and Stevens are in attendance.
Thank you. If everyone would do us a favor, if you're not speaking, please go to mute. And when you want to speak, then you can unmute that. We found that that works best. And with a large contingent, it would probably work even better. We get a lot of playback if you don't do that. So if you do that, we'd appreciate it. Is there any public comment?
No, Mr. Chair, no one has submitted any public comment.
In your packets, there are the meeting minutes of June 30th. If they're in order, I'll accept the motion and a second.
So moved.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Thank you. 2020-0146.
Resolution number 2020-0146, authorizing an agreement with Alcohol, Drug Addiction, and Mental Health Services Board of Cuyahoga County in the amount not to exceed $884,400 for residential and intensive outpatient treatment services in connection with the Medication-Assisted Treatment to Drug Court Expansion Project.
Who from the court is here?
Marty Murphy from the Corrections Planning Board. Good afternoon.
Hey, Marty.
This is an agreement with the Corrections Planning Board to the Adams Board. This is Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration out of the Department of HHS funded grant we received. And it is actually just to continue Judge Mataya's medication-assisted treatment drug court. This is the second of these grants.
And Marty, how many drug courts do we have going currently?
Presently, there are 4 drug courts going.
And that's Mattia.
Mattia, Judge Sittenberg, Judge John Russo has Veterans Treatment Court, and Judge McDonald has the original drug court.
Okay. Questions from the committee? Hearing none.
One question, Chair, if you don't mind.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
in reading over the resolution, I heard just now that this is a HHS grant. So this is not part of the opiate dollars that we received that will not be applied to this service.
This is a separate drug court. We are planning to set up a totally separate drug court with the opioid monies.
If I may, so the 4 drug courts that we have now are separately and 100% paid by the HHS grant. Is that a federal grant? And then outside of that, is that a yes?
No, there are, Judge Sittenberg's her recovery court is presently funded by HHS SAMHSA. The Veterans Treatment Court, Judge John Russo's is funded by SAMHSA. Judge Mattia is funded by SAMHSA. Judge Nancy McDonald's is the original one, and SAMHSA, we were only funded through perhaps 7 or 8 years ago. And that has been picked up locally between the court, the council and executive, and the Adams Board.
So are those dollars general fund dollars?
I'm not sure the source of those dollars specifically.
Okay, I guess my question, because we know we have quite a bit of opioid settlement dollars, and it is for programs above and beyond what we're already doing. And it looks like some of these things, if I read the resolution, we're increasing the length of time, doing things beyond what we have done in the past, if I'm reading resolution correctly. And just wondered if there's any dollars that are needed beyond the grants that we're receiving, that can we use the opiate dollars to fill in before we would get into HHS taxpayer dollars?
Sure, it always is an option, Councilwoman. Right now, we're still feeling our way through what the state did with their budgets. And what we have generally augmented the federally funded drug courts with is something called ATP, which is alternative treatment programming dollars out of Ohio Mass. They were cut quite significantly. There's only 4.5 million now for the entire state. You have to be a certified drug court to get those. Once we have a better sense as to where we are with those dollars, it may be something that would be very feasible to augment with opiate dollars.
Okay, and it is, I guess, in closing, it is on your radar that before we start getting into HHS tax dollars, that we look at all these other resources first.
We always do.
Thank you for that. I
The
appreciate
local
it.
tax dollar is the last resort.
Thank you.
And I think with that, Nan, we have to be careful with the opioid money. The drug courts not only deal with drugs, but alcohol. And so I don't know if there's any concern with that. So I would expect the administration to be directing us as far as the usage of that. Any further questions? Marty, I see the date is well past time. Reason for that?
Thanks, Councilman. Well, we had, and this is called MAT2, it's Medication Assisted Treatment 2. We had MAT1 that ran through the end of September of last year, and then had funding to carry us forward for another couple of months. We did start bringing people into MAT2 for services in the time frame after 1 October. Once we got to the point where we were going to have to bring this onto the agenda, we did have to first bring it through the Adams Board, go to committee there, and then go to their full board, and then cycle around, get the contract there after they had approved it by the board, and then get it signed by all of our parties. Subsequent to that, we ended up with two different distinct, unusual issues. One was the Lawson system, which was a little bit challenging in the beginning, and actually it still is today. And the other then was when we went on to working from home, which made things difficult to move forward. So that's why, and what we anticipate to do with this though is we will apply at the end of real year 5 for MAT3 from the feds. That'll be a toss-up. If we don't get it, we can apply for MAT3 then again the following year, because we have that cushion. We have not spent any of these dollars so far.
Okay, and to get these paid out, I would imagine sooner the better.
Sure.
Okay, any other questions from the committee?
Just one for clarification,
Yes,
Chair.
ma'am.
So if I just heard you correctly, this is over a year since this program was to begin, and there have been no services and nothing paid for that year and May, June, July, year and 2 months. This has been a dormant access to funding and services?
Thank you, Councilwoman. That's almost accurate. We did start services in MAT2 in October. We also had people that came into MAT1 in the last 12 months that were still in it. We ran them concurrently and we did not require these dollars. We wanted to spend down MAT1 before we opened up MAT2. So we have not, the answer is yes, we have been providing services. No, we have not spent any of the dollars.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I appreciate the answer.
Anything further? Hearing none. If everyone's comfortable in moving resolution 2020-0146 to the full council under second reading suspension, I'll accept a motion in a second.
So moved. Conway.
Second.
I hear a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Thank you. Thank you, Marty.
Thank you.
Going to the presentation that we have set up. Hopefully everybody got a copy of that presentation by email and a hard copy. I know they were printed out. I don't know if you received those yet. This came about, the genesis of this was a conversation that I had with previous Sheriff Bova after some of the things that were happening nationwide and particularly local. And my discussions with Sheriff Bova was, is there anything that Cuyahoga County can do that's meaningful that actually is going to make a difference and be helpful? I didn't want to go down a path of wasting time and money. I didn't want to go down a political path. I wanted to go down a path that saw a problem and addressed it. And I wanted to do that with the people that know what they're doing. I not being one of those. I spoke to other individuals regarding this in law enforcement, and everyone came back with the same thing as far as the recommendation that we need to train our officers across the board the same way throughout Cuyahoga County. And I've been made aware that state of Ohio is in the process of trying to do pretty much what we're doing today, with some problems as far as getting it along in the political atmosphere that is Columbus, Ohio. Same with the federal government and with the atmosphere politically there. I'm not certain much is going to get done. I think we have an opportunity here with this, and we'll listen to Chief Harris of Tri-C take us through this with his committee. They've been working on this for quite some time. Chief Harris will introduce himself, but he is one of the more renowned and respected law enforcement officers in Cuyahoga County and the city of Cleveland. And Chief Harris, are you available there?
Yes, I am. How are you?
Hello, sir. If you'd introduce yourself, the floor is yours. And I'll just remind everyone that if you're not speaking, please mute. Thank you, Chief.
Very good. Thank you. And good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Vice Chair and members of the committee and guests. Thank you for inviting us to be a part of your meeting today. We recognize your work for the county and it is of its importance. And we thank you for your constant efforts in serving Cuyahoga County. I am Chief Clayton A. Harris of Cuyahoga Community College. I also serve as the Dean and Vice President of the Public Safety Center of Excellence. And I also work in 3 different divisions, the Finance Administration Division, the Academic side, and the Workforce side. Our campus police department is made up of 125 police officers, dispatchers, office staff, and security officers. We are one of the few 2-year colleges and universities that is certified by the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies, CALEA. On our academic side, I manage our captioning court reporting program, the criminal justice degree program, the paralegal, and the paramedics degree program. Under our workforce division, I manage the EMT certification program, the fire academy, the emergency medical dispatch program, our private security, the drone academy, and our police academy, which includes the basic training and advanced training. In addition, I also serve on the Ohio Peace Officer Training Commission as vice chair. I was appointed by Governor Kasich and currently reappointed by Governor DeWine. I serve on the Ohio Amber Alert Steering Committee, protecting children from dangerous abductions in the state of Ohio for over 10 years. I have a long law enforcement career, over 40 years, serving the citizens of CMHA, East Cleveland, and I've been with the college as its chief for over 25 years. But I'm here today with a host of colleagues to present to you our recently developed police training modules. It is our desire to train all full-time law enforcement officers or police officers in our county with the ideal of looking at areas like communication and de-escalation, law enforcement's role in mass gathering, protests, and riots, law enforcement reform, bias-free policing, and an introduction to Blue Courage, the heart and mindset of the Guardian. The instruction will take place in 2 phases. Phase 1 is live streaming, similar to what we're doing today, allowing officers to take the training from their departments or use mobile devices or at home. We'll be utilizing other software enhancements to record attendance and other managing capabilities also. And phase 2 is the hands-on part of the instruction. We will train up to 100 officers per day at our scenario simulation village. In our new village, we have props and buildings that gives officers the opportunity to react to real-world scenarios they might encounter while on the job. Several buildings within the village are equipped with state-of-the-art cameras that allow instructors to provide a comprehensive critique of the officer's performance. Now I'd like to introduce our first presenter on the area of communication and de-escalation. This is Director Carol Ballard and Gregory Truhan.
Good afternoon. My name is Carol Ballard, and I'm the Director of Education and Training with the Adams Board. I'm the CIT coordinator and a certified instructor by CIT International. I'm a board member with CIT International, and I'm also a certified OPATA instructor. So my module, starting off in a discussion about communication and de-escalation, is called Profiles of People in Crisis. And in that module, we're going to be doing an overview using the LOSS model. So it covers 4 areas and looking at some of the behavioral and emotional characteristics of people in crisis. Then we're going to move and talk about the role of police, race, and trauma, and how that impacts that interaction with that person in crisis. And last but not least, we're going to have a panel, representatives from NAMI of Greater Cleveland, who are going to lead us through a leads discussion, focusing on the need for officers to listen, explain, equity, and treat people with dignity. And that will be the springback for the next part of communication and de-escalation with Greg Truhan. Thank you.
Good afternoon, council members, my esteemed colleagues, Chief Harris. My name's Greg Truhan. I was born and raised in Youngstown. I was a Youngstown police officer for 7 years, and I was a special agent with the United States Secret Service for 22. In my job with the Secret Service, I was the Cleveland Field Office's lead protective intelligence and threat assessment investigator. So I investigated a lot of people for threatening to kill the president. And as you can imagine, almost 100% of the people I dealt with had mental illness issues, trauma, crisis, etc. My colleague, Carol Ballard, I worked a lot with her while I was an agent because what I needed, our goal was not to arrest and lock the people up from violating federal law, but to get them help. And I got a lot of assistance through the Adams board, and I thank Carol for that. She made my job a lot easier as I had to call up to Washington and say, what were we going to do with these people? So my module is going to follow up on what Carol presents first. And so my module is going to cover the biological and psychological explanations for human behavior, specifically those that impact an officer's ability to gain compliance during a tense encounter. These are very simple and powerful do's and don'ts. These are things that I first started learning about in the Secret Service when I had to go out and do my interviews. And I like to tell officers that I've used them, I've tried them, and they work. I still use them today as I teach at the community college. And we have a lot of students that are troubled students, and we get to use these skills at the college level too. So the things that we're going to teach definitely can work, and they can increase the chances of a positive nonviolent response or outcome, which decreases the need for officers to use force. I'm going to cover factors in the officer's verbal and nonverbal communications that can unintentionally cause a person to respond with violence. I'm going to introduce officers to a concept called crew resource management, which is used in the commercial airline cockpits. Crew resource management training was created in the early 1980s due to a strict command hierarchy where co-pilots failed to question captains if they observed them making mistakes resulting in crashes. I can directly relate this to, and you probably from your experiences can relate this to what we see in the videos that we're watching of, what officers making mistakes and then other officers not stepping in to question that. So I'm going to cover that briefly. I'm going to review some federal court decisions that ruled that the diminished capacity of unarmed individuals must be taken into account when assessing the amount of force exerted. And finally, I'm going to cover a topic called excited delirium syndrome, which is a life-threatening medical emergency, and it is not a communication and de-escalation issue. A lot of the material is from the state of Ohio in our basic police academies, trauma-informed policing, in-service training. The issue that we see across the board is not all officers are receiving the same training. A lot of this material, I've been teaching crisis intervention in a police academy since 2016 or 2017, and a lot has changed since that time. And so if you have not gone through the academy recently, you're not getting a lot of this updated material. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol and Greg. The next presentation is on law enforcement's role in mass gathering, protests, and riots. Mr. Ellis Johnson, please.
Yes, I'm Ellis Johnson Jr. I'm a retired Cleveland police officer. I was there for 31 years. I retired as a commander of community policing. I've been with the college since '99. And our module has to do with law enforcement's role in mass gatherings, protests, and riots. And the idea behind this is the individual officers sometimes get caught up in what the protest is about instead of the actions of the people that are actually in the crowd. Most of the gatherings are lawful. It's the idea of knowing when it crosses that line and what to do. We want to hit on two issues. One is the supervisor, who should be directing and observing his officers and keeping them in a certain standard and line. And the second is the individual officer themselves. The main ideal is for them to understand what the First Amendment rights are of not only individual citizens, but also the media. We've seen multiple videos of officers, pulling cameras, taking phones, and these are sometimes being lawfully recorded by citizens. Not even talked about the media, and the ideal that they understand that as long as there's no interference in a lawful law enforcement act, media has the right to be there in the public space to report and record for public. I think part of the situations we have now is that there isn't any standard that goes across the board for every agency. And some agencies have different policies. And when you go somewhere else, that policy may not be the policy of your agency. And our ideal is to have them actually understand that their mindset has to be objective just to what's going to be a violation of the law. And sometimes just because you see that violation doesn't mean that you're in a position to actually go out and make an arrest. I think the primary decision of that should be with the supervisor and constant training, because we don't get the ideal of training as often as we should for these type of incidents. So our main purpose is just to get that understanding and protect the rights of the citizens and the media while you're trying to enforce. If it is a lawful demonstration, just go back. You stand back until there's something else happened. And the ideal of communicating with the leaders of these protests and give them an understanding of what they're there for and what you expect as law enforcement and what you expect to be enforced. If you get the leaders on board initially, you have some buy-in that the police are there not only for their protection, but also there to help them carry out a lawful, peaceful protest. We're going to have a scenario-based at the end of this, but the main lecture is to understand that the effects of the crowd or what they're protesting shouldn't affect how the officer should react. If you're in agreement or disagreement is irrelevant. It's the ideal, if there's a law being broken, do you need to enforce it at that time? In the use of cameras, because we have drones, we have cameras. Sometimes you just have to wait, review the cameras, and then do what you have to do, because your actions could lead the crowd to do something else that you don't really want them to do at that time. So it's going to be based on a lot of things, but I think the main focus for us is just the ideal of an individual officer not being drawn into an action that he shouldn't take, and the supervisors being there to make sure that this doesn't occur.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Up next is Stephanie Hall. Her presentation is on law enforcement reform. Stephanie?
Actually, this is the Chief Jack Hall. Chief, due to technical difficulties with Stephanie, I hope I do her justice in doing the presentation for you and council today.
Okay, you got it.
Members of council, and my name is Jack Hall. I'm the Chief of Police of the Westfield Police Department in Medina County. Been in law enforcement for 31 years, and prior to coming to Westfield, I was the Captain of Special Operations for the Cleveland Metropolitan Police Department. Our specific segment that Stephanie and I are going to be presenting is entitled How to Identify Long-Term Effects of Hypervigilance, and how those effects on hypervigilance affect law enforcement officers' behavior toward their community that the officer was actually sworn to protect and to serve. The question arises first is, what exactly is hypervigilance? And hypervigilance is an increased state of anxiety which can cause exhaustion. A feeling of anxiousness, nervousness, or unease can typically cause an imminent event or something of uncertain outcome to happen. We see this quite often in traffic stops and interaction that police officers have with the community. And our first objective is to ensure that officers understand what hypervigilance is, to identify it in themselves, and also to understand that the communities that they serve could also suffer from hypervigilance due to their prior encounters with law enforcement. So with that in mind, hypervigilance has created a theory in law enforcement called the guardian mentality, meaning that we always had to be on our guard, to be able to expect the absolute worst when we have encounters with the citizens. And sometimes citizens have built out that same hypervigilance to expect, unfortunately, the worst of the police when they meet with us as well. Stephanie and I will be using this module to guide officers back to our original oath of office that we took to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of Ohio, and understand that police officers are guardians of society and not the warriors that this hypervigilance has caused us to engage into. With these encounters that happen, a lot of them, we're looking at the officer individually, because we understand that an officer is attracted to an individual who breaks the law. And unfortunately, officers need to understand that we always don't have that luxury to do the wrong thing, but sometimes we actually will do. So this individual issue manifests sometimes into a racial issue, a socioeconomic issue, and then pits the profession of law enforcement against the community. And that's what we're trying to avoid. In addition to that, we will be focusing upon issues of upholding those constitutional oaths of the First, Fourth, and 14th Amendment discussions and reviews that will be happening. In addition to that, giving officers tools to utilize after they leave training, specifically based on the United States Department of Justice's LEARN program. And that is the acronym of LEARN, which was developed in the city of Seattle, Washington, to listen, explain, have empathy, and show dignity to the communities that they serve. The overall evaluation of this will be conducted within the actual scenarios, which will be conducted at the Tri-C Village, and we'll be monitoring at that point. Thank you very much for allowing us to present to you today.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Now we will have George Lichman, who will present on bias-free policing. George?
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me today. My name is George Lichman. I'm a policeman in Rocky River since 1998. I'm currently a lieutenant and executive staff assistant. In addition to my supervisory role here, I also work on training, implementing training, and community engagement tools like the Citizen Police Academy, Cops on Patrol in Schools, a bike patrol unit. I've worked at Tri-C since 2013, teaching community diversity and procedural justice at the Basic Academy and also advanced training in police legitimacy. And I'm currently working on reviewing the community diversity curriculum with OPATA. I'm going to teach a couple-hour segment on bias-free policing and introduction to bias. The first part, we're going to spend a few minutes talking about the police mission and how everything we do should relate back to our police mission for successful policing in our communities. And then we're going to spend some time going over some common definitions of some common terms that we hear a lot, but unfortunately, I don't know that everyone has a perfect understanding of, and that way we can be on the same page as we move forward with some of these definitions like race, stereotypes, prejudices, attitudes, 4 different types of racism, ethnicity, ethnocentricity, racial equality, racial equity, racial justice, bias, and then explicit and implicit bias. And there are others, but those are some of the big ones. And then we're going to spend time exploring bias and what exactly it is, different types of thinking that everyone does, system 1 and system 2 thinking, automatic versus reflective thinking. And we're going to talk about how biases are formed. And then I think importantly, how we can mitigate some of our biases. So we can, things that we can do to be aware of them and then slow down and resort to that reflective thinking when we can to mitigate biases that we have. We're going to talk about profiling in police work, bias-based profiling or racial profiling as it's also known, versus criminal profiling, and how one can be used effectively and one is specifically prohibited. And then we're going to wrap it up with the Ohio Collaborative standard for bias-free policing and what agencies, in order to comply with that standard, have to do to successfully be certified by the collaborative.
Thank you, George. We really appreciate that. And finally, we'll have Commander Elijah Baisden, an introduction and overview of Blue Courage, the heart and mindset of the Guardian.
I'd like to say good afternoon to everyone. My name is Elijah K. Baisden III. I have a combined 31 years of police officer and law enforcement experience and public safety teaching experience. I've worked as a police officer in the city of East Cleveland, Cleveland Heights, and as a campus police officer at Tri-C. I also have under my belt some amount of supervisory police experience. Today, I'll be delivering to you a brief summary of the program that will be a point of focus for this training initiative and what is now currently part of the state of Ohio's requirement for all police academy students and part of our advanced training initiative at Cuyahoga Community College's Public Safety Training Center. So let's begin by answering the question, what is Blue Courage, the heart and mind of the Guardian? The 1-hour training overview and introduction to Blue Courage, the heart and mind of the Guardian, will be part of a 16-hour training program that focuses on the human development of the police officer by addressing 4 areas of concern, a holistic approach in order to help police officers be healthier and to be at their best in order to be effective guardians of society. The 4 areas of concentration are physical development, focusing on exercise and food choices for better health. Emotional development, positive emotions and managing energy drains. Mental development, feeding, challenging, and growing the mind. Spiritual development, with a focus on community care and developing and maintaining a healthy spirit in order to be an effective guardian of society. If you're asking why do we need Blue Courage, it's necessitated by the problems that have long been present and expounded upon in many a research initiative. The situational factors that have negatively impacted relationships between police and communities found and published in the 1968 Kerner Commission report continue to exist today and are exemplified in the critical mass incident that played out on May 25th, 2020 during the arrest and subsequent death of George Floyd at the hands of then police officer Derek Chauvin. Blue Courage teaches that those who are here unfaithfully do incredible damage. There's a lot of work to be done where the institution of policing is concerned, and a good portion of that work involves transitional programs such as Blue Courage, the heart and mind of the guardian that seek to, number 1, help police officers cope with work that can sometimes be brutal. As they sometimes bear witness to things no human should have to, they endure a taxing on their psyche, their emotional and physical health. All of these things can be energy drains that can, as a matter of consequence, negatively impact a police officer. 2, help police officers recall that they have a responsibility to maintaining nobility in policing because they are serving a cause much bigger than themselves. Blue Courage reminds police officers that communities are counting on them. Number 3, help police understand that nobility in policing is facilitated and maintained. It must be facilitated and maintained by an adherence to A, the oath they swore to, B, the mission of service, justice, and fundamental fairness, facilitated by an adherence to a community care function by way of community policing, Peel's 9 principles of policing, and the social contract. Blue Courage, the heart and mind of the guardian, is a transformational program that has the ability to help heal old wounds, build bridges over chasms that exist between police and communities. I'd like to leave you with a lesson from Blue Courage that teaches through the wisdom of Maya Angelou, who once said, "Without courage, we cannot practice any other virtue with consistency. We can't be kind, we can't be true, we can't be merciful, generous, or honest." I'd like to thank the council members and those others that are present for their time. Thank you.
Thank you, Elijah. We really appreciate it. As you can see, I assembled a team of some of the best professionals I believe are out there in our county today. These folks represent us well in the work they do every day, and also has taken it upon themselves to build this program because of the importance that we feel it is to our county. Thanks again, Michael Gallagher, for making the call to pull us all together with this thought process of doing something that we know we can do, that we can pull our talents together to get us a real nice baseline for all the officers in Cuyahoga County. If this thing goes through, which we are really hoping it does, and we're able to deliver this in its proper form, I hope and pray we're able to look back in 2020, 2021 and say we did a significant thing that have saved lives and has also reinvigorated the profession of law enforcement. And most importantly, we have to change the narrative. We have to make it so that young people can see the importance of this noble profession and also join these forces. We have to push past the rhetoric and get people to really understand the significance of what law enforcement does and what it does in our county. I'm excited about thinking about our county leading this effort. It's a great thing, and we need to make these type of things happen. We can do it. We can change the narrative if we all stick together and focus on what needs to occur. So again, Councilman Gallagher, I thank you so much, and I thank the committee for giving us this time.
Chief, thank you very much. Could you tell the committee some of the support that you have community-wise regarding this?
Well, one of the main ones is we have Cuyahoga County Police Chiefs Association as part of support for it. So they have been engaged in many of the discussions that we've had. They've been online with us as we go back and forth, pulling all this together. We also have the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Professionals, NOBLE. They are part of it. They understand what we're doing. They're excited about what we're doing, and they want to participate wholeheartedly. Of course, the full backing of Cuyahoga Community College from President Alex Johnson and many of the leaders here at Cuyahoga Community College are fully supporting what we're doing and are behind us 110%. We also have other community members. We're talking to people everybody from the NAACP to the American Civil Liberties Union. We're trying to get everybody to see what we're doing, share some of the resources that we have developed in this, and get the community behind us all. I did send Mike a list of many of the community members I've talked to and will be re-engaging in, because we do want community support in all that we're doing. We don't want to operate in a vacuum. We want everybody to feel a significant role in this. And I really believe that we're going to have a lot of support in that second phase of how we do our hands-on approach and using the simulated village for the success of this program.
Thank you, Chief. Questions for any of our presenters today?
I have a question.
Mr. Tuma.
This is, oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Scott, you want to go? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I want to say I want to commend law enforcement officials who are here today for your participation in this, and you're being proactive in this situation. And I also want to commend Mr. Gallagher. He contacted me a few weeks ago and asked me my thoughts on this, and I think it's a very good and very necessary program that you guys are looking to put into place here. My question is not with respect to the content, but with respect to the practical aspects of this. How do we get local municipalities to jump on board with becoming a part of the program that you guys are willing to offer here? I'm not exactly sure what the requirements are. I'm not versed in any way with requirements of local law enforcement and such as state versus local and that sort of thing. I know as an attorney we have continuing legal education requirements. I'm not sure if you guys plan on doing that as part of this, or for new trainees, or just requirements for municipalities. So if I could hear from somebody, maybe the chief or someone else, what the thoughts are on that.
Chief?
Yes, our main focus is the current working officers that are out there every day today. We're focusing on them. We'll be contacting all of that's why it was important to have the Chiefs organization involved in this. That means they understand what's occurring, what we're trying to do, and I'm trying to present it in a way that doesn't tax them so much with when they have to replace an officer who is being trained with someone to fill that shift. We're trying to make sure it's more palatable for them, where they can do this and not be too extensive. But when we first actually put this together, I think we were up to 40 hours of training. We had to narrow it down on the basis of not hopefully covering enough content, but also making it palatable for each police department to be able to do it. Now, what we do as police chiefs is that anytime a training is out there and it is paid for, we all work hard to try to get our officers through it. The tough part is when we have training and training comes up and it's $400 or $500 per officer, and then you also got to fill the shift. It becomes an enormous economic situation for that police chief. But every police chief, when he's dealt with upfront and initially and shown the significance and importance of this type training, will do everything they can. The other part of this is we're also engaging mayors and managers to ensure that they understand this too, and will help support the level of finance that would take to ensure that their city is covered while another officer is engaged in the training.
I appreciate that, and I would say for the office for the mayors managers, safety directors of the communities. I think it'd be very beneficial for them to get involved. And maybe I see Ms. Pomerantz on here, and maybe that's something that the administration can coordinate if there's any, if they haven't already, with respect to getting some of the mayors and safety directors or managers involved. I appreciate it. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
To Mr. Tuma, I didn't want to do too much until the presentation, because I thought it important that we get this on the table first and see what it looks like, and then have a package to go out and basically offer it to the communities. The hook here is basically that we would pay for it, that Cuyahoga County would take the lead and initiate this process, and preferably having it more somewhat like CLEs, and have a yearly program where we're doing one-off shot. We're doing this every year. And again, as the chief said, the hope is that everybody would be able to get in here. That we all know in each and every one of our districts, we have communities that just cannot afford to pay anything to their police or fire regarding advanced education. I think by doing this and showing the good faith and having a large force ourselves with the sheriff's department, is that we're taking a lead and showing not only the communities in Cuyahoga County, but our surrounding neighbors in the various counties, and in particular, the state of Ohio, who's been trying to pull this off for quite some time and has just not been able to get there. I think that we show that we can actually put our nose to the grindstone and get something done. And I stress the importance of having not only Chief Harris running this, but with the help of Tri-C, but the quality of individuals that will be leading this as far as instruction, I think is beyond reproach. So I think we're really in a good spot. And quite honestly, getting people to jump on this, I think, is going to be less of a problem than we might guess. I think this is going to be something that not only is timely because of the recent past histories, what's been going on. I think going forward that communities are going to have to do something, and this takes care of that something with a really solid program by solid professionals from a solid organization, and like having the police chiefs and the NAACP and some other folks. We're showing that this isn't a one-sided affair. This is I keep hearing this statement that we're all in this together. Well, this shows the world that Cuyahoga County is in this together, and we're going to fix as best we can issues before they crop up, or if they crop up again. Our police officers will be going in safely, as our citizens will be treated safely. And I don't know we can say that right now, but after this, I suspect we'll be comfortable in being able to say that. Make sense?
Oh, absolutely. No, I understand. I wasn't sure if this was a finished product. It's obviously in its initial stages, and I look forward to the dialogue moving forward on this. And just as an aside, everybody knows recently we declared systematic racism in Cuyahoga County a public health crisis. I think this goes hand in hand with that in some of the areas like bias-free training, policing, and such. So I would hope and expect that would be part of the discussion in all of this moving forward as well. So thank you.
Actually, it segues quite nicely in there. And to be honest with you, when I first made the inquiries regarding this, that really wasn't on my radar or the county's radar as far as I can recall. So they've kind of combined together in what I think will be a compatible situation and afford us the ability. Again, I'm basing this on like the CLE programs that attorneys go through.
Right.
You're better off taking those courses because you graduate law school. If you don't, as well as anybody, you fall behind. And it's important to stay up and current.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Other question, Mr. Bajani, did you have a statement, sir?
Yes. Hi. Thank you, Mr. Geiger. Thank you so
Welcome.
much. I want to thank Chief Harris and Tracy for inviting me to be on this panel. And I wanted to, as I shared with the Chief Harris earlier, that I was also invited.
I believe we lost you, sir.
Police practices in Ohio before it goes into a bill. So we had our last week our first meeting, and it was a very successful. And we put some bullet points here and some ideas, and it is very similar to what I've heard so far. But it takes it pushed a little bit the subject much further about also education and educating and training also the police about different ethnic groups. Especially I represent the Arabic Middle Eastern community, about the sensitivity of different ethnic groups and how to have the police understand the different options that they face out here. I salute all the police chiefs that they are here. I salute all the police officers and all of our officers that they do a hell of a job every day, put their lives on the line, and they go out and they try to be everything. You cannot express enough how thankful we are for these officers, that they protect us and keep us safe too. And I always tell people, especially in different ethnic groups, that we are lucky to be living in a country like the USA, as this is what makes it so successful: the law and the keeping and the protecting of the law. So I just wanted to say that it is very important also to add to the agenda the training for different ethnic groups and the ethnicity and the various. As somebody was mentioning earlier, in Washington D.C., also there is a training for all of the officers in different section of FBI or any other parts. That there is a group from the Arab American community that they go and educate them and tell them about the sensitivity and about how do they feel about things and how they are to approach. And so I just wanted to say that I'm very thankful to be on this panel, and I'm very appreciative of all the efforts that you're doing. And thank you again, Chief Harris and Tracy and all of you, the county council, being here and having me here. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Berjani. Further questions for the chief? Or the
One answer.
Yes, ma'am.
Again, thank you all for all that you're doing. I absolutely supportive of all that's been said today. We proposed through our HHS levy, I believe, the diversion program. How does the diversion program, which is at the point of arrest, determining whether that person should go to jail or go to a place where perhaps their drug addiction or mental illness, those decisions at the time, how does that enter into this training? I haven't really heard too much about that.
Well, right now, I would suggest we don't have that until that program is further vetted and put together. I think that would be a hard thing to answer right now, but it would be an important aspect of this group to put a segment together that would handle that. But I don't know, am I correct, Chief?
Well, Scott is on, and Scott is already working on this, and along with the police chiefs and other community members. We just had a Zoom meeting recently to not only talk about the proposal and what's going to happen, but also the response to it and how police will interact with that program. So all those things are actually moving parts that are happening. And Scott can probably speak on it better than I can.
Thank you, Chief. Good afternoon, everyone. So yes, we had a meeting with various police departments. It was really very well attended. And it was in response to the Adams Board responding to the RFP for the creation of a diversion center for Cuyahoga County. So, we listened to the police chiefs and other people involved as to what they would need in that in the diversion center. So we took their recommendations, we put that into our RFP response, and part of our RFP, the requirement is training for officers and how they would actually use the diversion center and how they would make decisions. There would be a hotline available for police officers to call right on the spot that they could make decisions, and it would even be capable of handling video calls. So the expert on the other end would be able to help those officers.
I appreciate that, and it just seems to be a natural here in our conversations of what training our police officers will be going through, which is not yet developed either. And I know that the diversion program, which is funded, is also now being in the process of being developed. The two should be talking to each other, and that was just my point. The only other question I had, and certainly understand how our officers put their life on the line every day. For those situations that when a 911 call comes in and there's, uncertainty in what that officer may be approaching and knocking on a door or stopping someone for speeding or suspicious weaving, how does that, do you have, I would imagine in your village, have those type of training scenarios where the officer's risk level is much higher? And how do you balance that so that it doesn't get escalated to something it didn't need to be, but also perhaps walking into something that is already escalated and the proper training for that police officer? Is that also part of the police training?
It is not actually totally addressed in this training. There is so much training that the officers go through annually that deals with what you're talking about. But what we want to do is focus on these 5 module areas and create the scenarios from these 5 areas. So we're trying to stay mostly narrowly focused on these areas that we feel are more important to the community at this point, to ensure that the officers have a nice baseline for how to function in these environments. But yes, they do that, and we do also do that at our village for advanced training for officers.
Okay, thank you. I'll look forward to hearing more about it. I appreciate your answer.
Mr. Chairman, it's Cheryl Stevens.
Yes, ma'am.
Could we ask them, they're looking at training, providing training for 2,500 law enforcement officers in Cuyahoga County?
Correct. Chief, you want to take us through the way in which you'll provide this?
Yeah, and we use that as a baseline. I'll give you a number that may shock you a little bit, is that there are 66 law enforcement agencies in Cuyahoga County, representing 4,700 full-time police officers in Cuyahoga County. So Cleveland Police Department, which represents about 1,600, are going through and have gone through de-escalation training and training similar to some of the things we're talking about. Maybe not all is inclusive, and sometimes even a little more direct and more hours. Trying to use a baseline for that out of that 4,700 to work with, at least something that we could pretty much say we can accomplish by the end of the year. If we see an opportunity where we can get every police officer in Cuyahoga County through this training and through this module, we'll have the ability to add on for probably year 2021. But for this baseline, we're trying to do as much as we possibly can before the end of the year And that's what we figure the capacity about 2,500. The first phase of this, of course, again, is online, similar to what we're doing now. There'll either be 2 hours per day or a 4-hour day of the lecture portion. When that's complete, we'll move over to the scenario portion, which will be an 8-hour day. They will have to show up there. We'll be doing 100 officers per day at our scenario village, was specifically designed and built for this type of training. I don't know if you're aware of the scenario village the college is built at our Western campus, but it was nearly $20 million of a facility that was built. It looks like a street, which actually has a house, and it has retail buildings on each side. And you really think that you're on a real street when you're on our village. And it has movable walls inside the buildings. We're able to deliver smoke inside the buildings if we have to. It's just a wonderful place to do more hands-on things and give the officer much more immersive experience as they go through that style of training.
Thank you to Mr. Harris through the chair. I also have concerns about virtual training. People sometimes walk away from virtual training. Is there a module that tests people to make sure they've at least picked up the core pieces of information on the virtual training, and that they have to pass that in order to get to the in-person training?
Actually, I may have been using the word virtual, but all of these trainings are pretty much hands-on. We'll have actors, role models, so to speak, props, all those kind of things where you have to go through it. We will also be doing debriefings at the end of each session, where we'll talk over the things that they were supposed to learn, should have learned, have a basic knowledge or understanding of. And the facilitator will know or be able to rate whether the officers actually completed and did all the things they were supposed to do before they move to the next session. So yes.
So in a 2-year period, you'd like to be able to offer this to every officer in Cuyahoga County? Is that what you're telling us?
That's correct, or if not sooner, yes.
And the pricing that if it's for 2,500 officers, that's like $10,000 a person.
No.
It's $250,000.
Am I doing my math wrong?
Yeah,
Michael?
it's like $100 a person.
Correct. And,
Okay.
and trust me, that cost is still.
If it's 100, that's great.
Yeah, that's what it is. And it's, trust me, we skimmed everything we possibly could skim, but we also, the college is picking up a lot of things that you probably would not see. We have a team of our media arts people that are involved in this and have started this project with us. We have a team of our IT professionals that started this project and are involved with us. We have almost every organization from the college that are assisting us. Our marketing and integrated communications team are part of this process. And these are all done at the expense of the college to make this project successful.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's the end of my questions.
Thank you, ma'am. Dale, did I hear you? Did I hear another question? Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, can I say one more thing?
Yeah, yes, sir.
I'd just like to introduce Jamie Tavano, who is our director of our police academy. Jamie has also been instrumental of assisting in pulling this team together. Many of them work for Jamie in our police academies. And I'm not sure if you're aware that we run one of the largest police academies in our county, in our region. Along with that, we're the third only agency to train Cleveland Police cadets. We have 43 Cleveland Police cadets in our academy right now, and hopefully they'll be completed by the middle of August, the middle of August. And this is, I think, our third or fourth group of Cleveland Police cadets that we train. The two agencies are Cleveland Police Department that trains their cadets, and at one time they sent them to Columbus to the Ohio Highway State Patrol for training, and now they send them to us. And we actually assemble a team of our professionals, some of them you heard from today, that actually train new Cleveland Police cadets. If Jamie is on, I'd like him to introduce himself.
Hello, Councilman Gallagher. Thank you, Chief. My name is Jamie Tavano. I'm the Interim Director of Public Safety Training for Law Enforcement at Cuyahoga Community College. Really feel privileged to be here, and feel really privileged that the Chief is allowing our instructors to present this. Once again, this what I believe is the very meaningful training here in Cuyahoga County. And you know, we have a history at Tri-C in the Police Academy of setting the standard. And I believe this training is going to set the standard and be a model for the state of Ohio. Again,
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Councilman Gallagher.
Thank you. Anything further for the committee? Well, Chief, thank you very much. That was an impressive presentation. I'm going to now get to work and draft legislation. Hopefully I will be able to convince my colleagues that this is not only necessary, but a well worth the effort program that will benefit not just the Cleveland area, but the surrounding areas, including all of our areas in which we're elected to represent. I'll be getting back to you for any other questions that I may have. If anyone else has any further questions.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Brady.
I just wanted to thank Chief Harris and also you, Mr. Chairman, for bringing this committee meeting together. I thought it was quite excellent, and I'm enthusiastically looking forward to being, part of what your the effort here to help train our police officers in a way that's consistent and contemporary. So, thank you very much for your work.
Thank you, Mr. Brady. But again, thank you, Chief Harris. Thank you, everyone that presented today. It was informational and instructional for us lay people. We don't usually deal with this. We just see some of the things that happen when they go wrong, and I think we'd like to be part of some of the things that might be able to go right. The only other one I see, Mayor Bopst, did you have anything you wanted to say, or were you just?
I'm just very thankful to be invited to your committee meeting, Councilman Gallagher. I thank you so much and so pleased to be involved. They reached out from Cuyahoga County mayors and managers and asked if I would sit on a committee to review the various modules. And so as a mayor in the West Shore, and great to see our County Councilwoman Nan Baker on the committee, I'm very proud to serve in that role, and I thank you. This is important work, it's meaningful work, and it is work that each of the communities, the municipalities really need. So the partnership with the county, with Tri-C, Chief Harris, you've done a wonderful job assembling some individuals who really understand this subject and can provide the necessary training. So happy that you've engaged Lieutenant Lichman. We are very proud of his service to not only our department, but the entire region. So again, thank you so much, and just appreciate hearing about all the modules. We have yet to review them in detail, but I'm looking forward to being a part of that process. So thank you so much to the county and Chairman Gallagher, especially your leadership on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much. Again, we're going to coordinate. I'm going to coordinate with the chief, and when the package is ripe, we'll move forward and hopefully have the support of council and the administration. I want everybody to be comfortable and all their questions to be answered, because I think this is such an important issue and an important thing for us to get involved in. We as a county council have been very proactive since our inception. And I think this just goes in the same direction that our leadership has taken us through these many years. These difficult times we're dealing with, I think it's time for us to step up and help be part of a solution to what obviously is a problem. So again, thank you all for being here. I greatly appreciate it. Chief Harris, I'll be speaking with you soon. And if there are no other questions, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.